The Alpha Dawg, and man, am I excited today. There is a woman, a person in the car business that has been my protege. I mean, this person is a personal friend to me and my spouse, Debbie. I mean, the Elise Kephart experience from from California all across the country. Now she's internationally known. Hi, kid.
Hi.
Oh, wow. Tell me about the Elise Kephart experience.
So, what is crazy about the Elise Kephart experience is it actually started when I sold cars, and the whole motto behind it was providing a service or for the customer that was different from the norm. And so when I sold cars, a lot of times that norm was the typical back then car buying experience. So when I started my own business, it's that same idea that the service that I'm providing, which is now to dealers and team BDC teams and sales teams, that everything that I do, it might go against the grain a little bit, but it provides a above and beyond service,
Oh,
something
you
beyond.
are absolutely unlike anybody in the car business. I mean,
Thank
you
you.
are a unique brand.
Thank
And
you.
one thing about Elise, I'm going to tell you before she gets into this monologue, this woman does it in dealerships. She'll go in and just take over your BDC, take over your telephones, take over your keyboard. She will absolutely show you. She will do things that your employees will tell you can't be done.
Oh, it's
No.
wild. It's sharpening the blade, right? Having the confidence as I and you like it's as a trainer, right? What good are you as a trainer if you stay stagnant? You have to keep up with the times. That's the real and how
Wait
the
a minute,
coach
wait a minute,
sometimes has
wait a
to
minute.
has
You're
has to play
telling
the
me
game.
about keeping up with the times?
Getting in
You're
the game
telling me
still, but
about that?
no, just in general. Like a lot of
48
right.
years, Elise.
What was that?
48 years. I understand keeping up with the times.
Yeah, well, I guess it's that has been my motto, when I've started the Elise Kephart experience is, my first, on-site training, and I was pregnant with my now 6-year-old at the time. Um, it was my first transfer of as a trainer actually going in the boiler room, right? And it was this eye-opener experience of a lot of the things that I was teaching up to that point. They weren't perfected, right? And so it's kind of been that point forward over the last it's now been going on 8 years since I've been on this Elise Kephart experience journey post retail. So now longer than I've ever sold retail. It's always been about, especially the last, we'll call it 2-3 years, you know, there's teams that I'm working with now that didn't sell cars before 2020, right? Or before 2019, we'll call. So there was like a big shift there, right? The inventory thing is a huge shift and for like you've seen so many, like I got in the car business in '08, right? And so that was the last kind of like kind of crazy thing with the quote economy, right? But it's the inventory shift was a huge thing, and so working with teams now that sometimes don't know what it was like before, and now we're at a point where things are starting to level back out again. I popped on your
Oh,
show.
we've normalized.
Yeah, yeah, it's no yeah. I mean, like, we could just call, and we knew it was gonna happen, right? We knew it was gonna happen, and so here we are, and so now it really becomes like, okay, training. Suddenly it's like, okay, our people aren't trained. Secondly, it's skill set, right? More than ever skill set, because I think in
Skill
those
set, listen to you. I'm
like
telling you right now, because in the last year and a half, a monkey with a note in his mouth could sell cars and make a big profit.
right,
Yeah.
right. It's and just and almost being in a very arrogant way because you knew somebody else, like it you knew somebody else would just buy it anyways, right? That's how crazy the market is, and now it's leveled out, And now you don't have that luxury, we'll call it, anymore. You just
Yeah.
don't, right? And it's not even just skill set, it's as far as like as far as your processes, but I think it's really good. It really finds into, your processes are going to go so much more streamlined if you actually believe in the end result, meaning um a core of the car business to consumer that there's a big disconnect with is relationships, right? Consumer always just right away a lot of times assumes that the dealer isn't like they're questionable about it, right? That's why they only give you their email, right? So knowing how to get that first disconnect down, right, from an internet customer especially, is the name of the game right now, because less and less people are picking up their phone. Nobody's going to say that, but I will, right? That's the truth of it. Any internet
Well,
trainer in the
wait a minute, Elise,
yeah.
are you any good at doing that?
Oh, I have it down to a
Elise, can you actually set appointments? I mean, to me, the goal of the BDC, whether it's text, whether it's telephone, no matter
yes.
how you're communicating with the customer, online chat, smoke signals, I don't care.
Yeah,
Uh,
right.
how many people can you set an appointment with in what amount of time?
So the last time that I did what I call a marathon, right, where I really just sat there all day, didn't do anything else in a dealership.
In a real
Uh,
dealership.
what was that?
In a real
In a
dealership?
real dealership, yeah, in Carmel, New York, upstate New York. So,
Oh no, you're dealing with New Yorkers. That's even tougher.
so up, so right on the border of Connecticut. So, I learned that there was like different like like I think it was tag fees. Some people would come from Connecticut to New York, or I can't remember if it was vice versa, but you know, little things like that. But I was able to set 19 appointments in an 8-hour bell shift. And that's
No,
when I
you
will
made
say
that up.
that's when
You
I was
made that
that's
up.
when I smoked
Wait a
cigarettes.
minute.
So
Wait,
I would
wait,
take
wait,
like,
wait, wait. Are there witnesses to this?
oh, there is. I put the whole thing on Zoom. I put the whole
You
thing
got
on
it on
Zoom, and we don't
Zoom?
play
Are you
that
got it
way.
recorded?
Yes.
Oh.
It was you could watch it. You could log in with your email that day, like at any time, and just hear the basketball moves, right? So you heard every voice. I mean, I didn't really have I don't think I left voicemails. Which through from that, because that was in 2021. So from that to now, where I'm I'm doing it with dealers consistently, right? Diving in, but haven't really done like a marathon, I guess, in that same aspect at a store.
But you sold 19 appointments
Oh yeah,
in
10
one
showed and
day.
5 bought
In one day.
in one day. Yeah, and you put the show and the sold within a week. Because anything it's math to so many
Wait,
things,
did these
right?
people actually show up?
That's what I said. 10 showed and or 10 showed and 5 bought. This was in the chip shortage. This was in the chip shortage. It was like,
I know the answer to the questions I'm asking because you are amazing. And you train this in dealerships. I mean, you
well,
actually go into dealerships and train people how to do this.
yes. And it's I mean, NADA was the first time, other than like the first time for my first time speaking at NADA, and at the end of my presentation, let me just tell you, Jim, I was so nervous because I did that thing that I've done that I would do at Battle Plan, where I put my cards to the test, right? So I basically called my own shots, and I said I have 15 minutes left, and this is NADA, so just like Jim Ziegler, you don't go over, right? Like you don't go
No.
over. It's just so I have 15 minutes, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to dial blindly into this CRM. I have 5 minutes to really get a customer on the phone, and I have 10 minutes to close an appointment in front of you.
Wait a minute. You're at NADA.
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh,
how many people in your audience?
a solid 100. A solid
Solid
100.
100 people in your
Yeah.
audience. They set the room too light. I'm telling you.
Oh,
They
man.
should have had.
Oh my gosh. And get this, the customer. Okay. First of all, it was a Range Rover dealership because I just picked
You
somebody.
picked a random business card, Range Rover,
It was
Range
a
Rover
Range Rover
dealership.
Jaguar. I'm like, oh dear gosh,
Oh,
golly, like of all chances, right? So I'm calling these leads, and it's like you're sweating because you're dialing for like a minute and a half, 2 minutes, and you feel like it's 20 minutes, and you feel like you start to hear voices and you get really nervous. And these leads in VIN Solutions, right? It was and I'm like, I don't know what these cars are. But luckily, well, it was kind of like a hot and a cold. Luckily, the opportunity that finally picked up was a Kelley Blue Book trade-in marketplace. So this was a California-based store. So there's different tax. So it's not like, so you wouldn't get like the tax credit in California, right, where the store was based. So, and it was on she was selling like her Toyota RAV4, or no, a Toyota 4Runner. Yeah, I should remember. And so that was the great thing, right? Because I was crossing my fingers that when I asked her that she just wanted to sell it, which she did. Like she had put in an order for a Tesla already. So she just wanted to sell this car. But before we got all to that,
to sell the car.
Yeah, but the crazy part is like when she first picked up the phone, right? We were speaking for just a short minute, and then she pulls one of these. She goes, yeah, but I'm going into a meeting right now. Can you call me back? Right? Like I had to figure out how to hold it. Because that was like Eminem 8 Move. That was my one chance. And I knew I have the phone, the conversation, whether it's text or email or phone call, live phone call. I just almost break it down into a puzzle piece, like a chessboard, right? So I know the probability I knew that could happen. And I have a little move that I do to figure it out, because the real logic behind that, if somebody picks up when they're driving, when they're at work, is they chose to do it, right? They saw ABC Motors calling, if you're doing it right, and they chose to pick it up. They chose to pick it up on their car. They didn't have to. The thing is, the trust wall comes up when you start to talk to them right away. So they're going to tell you, oh, I'm headed into work. Because if you're really busy at work, you put it on ghosty ghost mode, which I gotta make sure I do that, right? You put it on airplane mode. They put it on silence mode. You put silence on. There's a million and more privacy settings now on phones. And she chose to pick up her phone that said ABC Motors, right? Even though she was going into a meeting. She didn't have to if it was that important. But you got to get through that trust wall. So so I had to do this. I was like sweating though, because now I have a customer finally that picks up, and then she tells me that I'm at work.
In front of an audience of 100 people.
Yes.
Your big shot, first NADA convention.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Is the diva gonna blow it? Or what
my gosh. I knew my move. It was like a basketball. So I back it out and I go, hey, you know what? Not a problem. I'm going to go ahead and send you a text permission. Is it okay if I text you after this call? And if they're talking to me, I'm reading the temperature. Here's why the phone call is so crucial. I'm reading the temperature, right? And if she's in a still positive mood and I'm able to connect with her, right? Then she's talking for me for 15 seconds about her phone number and text permissions. Then she's really she's not going into a work meeting, or it's not that urgent, right? So I listen to that temperature, but it's like that. You have to be able to know, that's like the skill set. And I'm feeling, okay, not only that, but I can't mess this up in front of 100 people. So I take it back and then right in one swoop, and then I go, and really quick, my computer sometimes auto fills incorrectly. You have a 2019 Toyota 4Runner. Is that correct, ma'am? And she's like, oh yeah, and I forgot to put that I put running boards on it. And like you just saw it. So like by the end of the call,
she starts selling you the car.
Yeah, right in those, and like I said, under those 10 minutes, the customer picked up at about like 2.5 minutes into dialing, and it was about a 10-minute call. And luckily, she just wanted to sell it. And she started to ask me about like the gods were in my favor, like the car gods were in my favor. Because if she would have started to ask me about anything Range Rover, Jaguar, I would have been boom. Like I don't even know the difference of like an SUV to a car. You know, at minimum,
you don't know the product.
At minimum, see, here's like I've worked with every single brand to the point of, even with like BMW, I understand the concept of like a sedan or like a midsize.
Elise, you amaze me. You know all the CRMs, you know most of the models. You are a car person, you are a manager, you are able to walk in a dealership with authority and mastery, because they know that you know.
Yeah.
There are so
Yeah.
many trainers out there that can't do it, have no business being in a dealership. You are a master. Okay, so what did you do? Tell me the end of the story.
So then I set the appointment at the end, and then she just like she said, she came in and she just sold the car. It was just that's all she wanted to do. Is just sell the car, and it was paid off. So just get a check for it. She had already um put in an order for a Tesla over. So it was just an outright sell. And this was a Kelly Blue Book, I mean, quote lead, right? But there's a huge branding to that. I think in the consumer world, Kelly Blue Book before even the internet has been a brand, and when it was like a book, right? When it was like so when they didn't have access to it, and they branded themselves so well, I think just through so many. And my dad used to sell cars, like, you know this. Like my dad used to sell cars when I was um my daughter's cat, by the way. I'm holding my laptop because she's being a little feisty. I should have She would have either meowed or just watching her. But so but Kelly Blue Book has branded themselves so well, I think just to the consumer, it's a trusted brand, right? So being able to use that use be make sure when you're calling the customer that they understand the relationship of that dealership to Kelly Blue Book, right? Because
Well,
they don't a lot of times.
everybody pretty well knows that you and I have a relationship that goes back how many years?
It's almost 15 years. I mean,
15 years.
I remember this much. It was the golden nugget, okay? And we can just rewind so many chapters of like everything that we've like. I wasn't a mom yet. Not only that, I wasn't in a relationship. I wasn't married. I wasn't divorced. Like the whole the whole thing, right? Like it's been
Oh,
about
you have transitioned so many times. When I first found you, you were working in a dealership, and I asked you to speak at my conference. Next thing I know, you're speaking at conferences. You're writing for magazines, and all of a sudden, you're going into dealerships. And I've watched you transition all the way to the YouTube D. I gave you that title, the
I
YouTube
know.
Diva.
I know. I know. You know what's crazy is Rihanna just did the Super Bowl this last Sunday, and I have a video um that I made with the YouTube Diva logo that was like to a Rihanna beat. It just made me think like um that yeah, it just made me think like because I remember editing it when I was like one of my first battle plans that I was like sitting in and just how far we go back. It's been like it's been through every when Lily was born, the first time I became a mom, you and
Oh,
Mystic.
my wife and I remember holding your infant at
I
one of
know,
the.
and now Lily is 10 years old. She is double digits. She is in the double digit club until the triple digit club, right? Like
I remember when you spoke in New Jersey at at,
yeah.
at the battle plant, and you were 8 months pregnant. I mean, it looked like you were smuggling watermelons, and I was afraid I was going to have to boil water and
I didn't even think of that. Like I mean, I do remember I was pregnant when I presented. Yeah. I didn't I
oh
there's been
yeah.
yeah. So, and I mean through all of it. And I think now, it's I so much of it I think just becomes really almost just like it's this whole understanding of who you are and being fully confident in that, right?
Well, let me ask
Um,
you a question. Let me ask you a question. It's a very important question. We're 20 minutes into this interview. How can people hire you? Because a lot of people haven't got time to watch the entire video. I know that from
right.
experience. Let's get that out real quickly. How can people hire Elise Kephart to come physically to your dealership or to consult you on Zoom or the phone? How can they get in
Yeah.
touch with you?
So my email is my first name, It's really easy, which is Elise, and then it's at, and then it's my website, which is elisekephart.com. So
Oh,
Elise at elisekephart.com. And one of the things that I have really enjoyed, that I found a massive productivity for, a little hack for everybody out there, is to keep your inbox clean. I responded to Jim Ziegler in an email within like 45 seconds the the last week. So I used to say, "Oh, don't do that," but now I'm gonna I again, kind of going back to the Elise Kephart experience, providing that service, and this is holding myself fully accountable, is getting back to somebody, right? Even if it's to let them know, like, hey, I this is what, like, this is when we should connect next,
there
right?
is a woman on this broadcast right now watching this broadcast
Yeah.
that I just talked to today, just this morning. I
Yeah.
said, one of the most unprofessional things that you could possibly do is somebody to call you and the message says, um, their mailbox is full.
Yeah.
That indicates to me that you're not paying attention to your business.
Yeah.
And that is one of the most important things. And the other thing is take your calls.
Yeah.
So many people in car dealerships let it go to voice. People don't talk to voicemail.
Yeah.
Statistically, they hang up. They don't talk to your voicemail. You lose so many customers because you think you wanted to let it go to voicemail and screen your calls.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
The voicemails are transcribed as well, which is, if you have a cleared if you have a I save voicemails because I like hearing. I have some saved ones from you. I like looking at my voicemails. I wish and maybe there's an update. I haven't looked, but to be able I wish there was a way to like folder them like you can for an inbox, but I have a lot of voicemails in my inbox, just that I like having almost like my own personal set of voicemail, like just encouraging words, or yeah, I have a lot from you in there
yeah,
that go back.
I have visual voicemail.
Yeah, well, and so it's transcribed now too. That's a huge
Well,
thing, you know?
that does transcribe it. It's visual
Yeah.
voicemail.
I remember when I mean, if we go way back to, like, when I was first the YouTube Diva at Honda doing videos, right, and making calls back then. So we're talking 2000, 9, 10, 11, right, those years. I think maybe the iPhone had come out somewhere later in that era, and it was like Umail, but it was like a separate app. Now it's just like built into the phone, right? You don't have to like have a separate. That's what happens over time, right?
Mhm.
So, and it's transcribed. So what I do, so I have to assume if I do this, and the normal person out there whose voicemail probably isn't full, right? Um, they probably do the cheat code and they read it, right? They read what you're saying. So it used to, what's interesting as a phone trainer, I guess, is it used to be your tone inflection and everything matters, which it does. I love leaving voicemails almost like just as a fun time, right? I know the chances of the customer actually hitting play is this, but what it does when I can leave an exciting, energetic voicemail, even though I know they're not going to play it, is it keeps my energy up, right? Because if that customer does pick up, right?
All day in a BDC can wear you down.
Right. You have to find a way, and this is I only drink coffee now. Like, it's this is coming off of, I used to smoke cigarettes for a very long time, like car business and prior, right? So 20 plus,
Uh-huh.
about 20 years, and energy drinks as well, right? And those two things are very common in our business.
I
And
used to smoke all kinds of stuff.
well, and energy drinks, it's almost like from the beginning of time in the car business, taking like my first up, okay, in like 2007, 2008, like that was like a celebratory thing. Pop open a Monster and like have a cigarette. So it has been in my whole car business life up until about the last 6 months. And other than when I was pregnant, of course, I didn't do that as well, but it's made me realize, it's actually made me put a lot of mindset into the concept of, quote, being an addict or obsessive, and really putting that energy, right, into good things. And in what we do every day, like for BDC or for sales, there you face so much like hits, so much rejection, so much L's every day, that you have to find a way to like make sure that you are um that your energy stays good, right? For a long period of time, because you're basically just getting punched in the face a lot, especially if you're BDC. Think of every time somebody doesn't pick up their phone. That's just like it's a little punch at you throughout the day. So it's easy to get worn down. And this is coming from, there's been times like where sometimes like I work leads like for a bunch of different locations, right? So it's like so going through that, and I realized, wow, this can be, you have to find, that's why I grabbed my I try and have good posture, and I try and stand up when I'm making calls and when I'm doing things, because it does help keep your energy up. And it also reports to like my little Apple Watch that I'm normally wearing. So I like to be able to track, okay, how many steps am I getting? Am I staying active, right? There's so much you can like have a headset on when you make calls. There's so many things you can do to where if you're just sitting there all day for 10, 12 hours with a lunch break in a chair, your posture is going to get really bad. I mean, like you're just going to get drained. It's no wonder that we got to survive off of a six pack of energy drinks.
You know, Elise, when I made 100 phone calls a day, when I was selling Internet Battle Plan,
Yeah.
I was wearing a headset. I was all over the room. I was on my feet. I pace when I call.
Yeah.
I don't, not stuck to the little cubicle. I had to be out there. I had to be pacing back and forth. And when you pace and you got that energy in your voice, like I've got in my voice right now, like you
Yeah.
have in your voice, people don't get that. People can read a smile over the phone.
Right.
They know
Well,
if you're smiling.
Well, especially if you are a quote salesperson, then a salesperson has sold themselves on themselves, right? So why wouldn't you have figured out that part of you as a salesperson is going to it's supposed to be infectious, right? Your relationship is supposed to be like, wow, like attractive. You want to attract people. And so if you're selling something, then how are you supposed to sell something if you haven't really sold yourself on A, yourself, or B, your product, right? Or your company, or all those things that matter. If you're just saying the lines and the word tracks, then like a customer can spot that you don't believe in it. And what's crazy is you no longer have to think of them as word track when you just fully immerse yourself and realize and are confident in all those things. You're confident in yourself. You've sold yourself. You're confident in your company. You've sold yourself on your company and your product,
Oh,
right?
Elise, those people out there, pay attention. Pay attention. Let
I
me
just
tell
like
you
love
something.
getting fired up about this stuff. Like if you
Yeah,
can't,
you
it's
are
been a,
looking at two of the very best in the industry. If you're watching this broadcast, the people you're watching are two of the very best in the history of this business. We are that good. And I'm telling you, this woman is phenomenal. And check out, if they go to elisekephart.com, what will they find?
Well, I'm gonna share this much, and my friend Michael Cirillo is probably gonna help me with my website. My website, and rest in
Love
peace, Jay.
Michael.
Yeah, my website. I haven't told you this actually. I just got the WordPress stuff. You know, Jay, who is a good friend of ours that passed, did my website in the past, and so it is going through a revamp. So you're gonna find some older pictures, and when I say older pictures, they're about 3 years outdated, right? But aside from that, really what I focus on now, as opposed to just, I mean, the Elise Kephart experience. It focuses on if you're in BDC, if you are in sales, right, and you struggle with the biggest problem right now, which is getting customers to respond to you in a timely manner with the least amount of work possible, and ultimately setting more appointments, but confidently, right? Not having to kill yourself. And I say that like lightly, but if you think you know, the stereotype of the car business from the consumer, where it's like the Danny DeVito character from Matilda. The stereotype for a lot of people for BDC is just like, you think of people that just don't like their job. They're just making calls, right? Faking calls, like doing just not kind of just sitting there waiting for and to think of how limiting that is, right? If we were to tap into our potential and really think, okay, if everybody in the room sold themselves on themselves, their product, their dealership, you would be excited. You would take you That's the natural energy that you need to take all the hits, right? That happen when nobody picks up their phone. And when somebody does pick up their phone, you treat it, you know, you treat it like it's I mean, you understand that it's a skill set, right? Being nice, being confident, having the word track down, there's so much more to it than I think that, right?
I
There is
was
a
doing a
probably
podcast yesterday and we were talking about the fact that word scripting and word tracks are conversation, they're not memorization. You're
yeah.
talking with the people, you're not talking at them. I've been to F&I schools where they taught you robotic scripts. It didn't sound natural.
You know what's crazy? Have you seen, I'm just gonna give it, have you seen the little genius tool in Drive Centric CRM?
I have not, but I like Drive Centric a lot, but
Man, let me just tell you, like, I'm pretty stoked about it. There's thing like it for me, I can be a very um informal typer, right? So a lot of my verbiage a lot of times can be informal or mm, you have to read it a couple times to
that
understand it.
makes you genuine.
It does. But if you're talking about templates or snippets for a salesperson, right? Then what I
Mhm.
love about it is it can take my words and I use it and it formalizes it and you kind of go through it. I mean, it just cleans it up, right? It cleans it up and you can kind of go through it and it I mean, I have this great I call it my EKX files, like FBI files. I have this amazing thing that happened with the dealer where I was working their leads and it was a lead that wasn't it didn't even start off with email only. It was one of those ones where the phone number was actually fake, right? So the phone you call and then it was like a bad number, but it wasn't like a 555 like you it looks like a real number, but no, you call it's a bad number, you call again it's a bad number, so you take it out. So now it's shifted to this email only. And then it was the first and I've been doing like this car business thing for 17 years and like it was the first email only because I've always been so adamant about like you have to do it this and this way, but this was the first time where I played my cards right and like I knew that I was not good this guy wasn't going to give me his phone number even just to text, right?
Okay.
And
I've met those people. I've handled those people.
yeah,
We all
and
have. We
and
all
the
have.
deal and it was on a used car that was out of stock, right? And he ended up switching to it was at a Chevy store. He ended up switching to like by the time he drove off in the lot, here goes into that stat. What is it? Like 90% buy something a little different from what they initially thought.
93.8.
Yeah. So here we have a Traverse on a customer on a used Traverse, okay, third row. And this little genius tool helped me spice up like because this guy was very transparent. He told like he was he was an intelligent buyer, which I think with the internet most people are. So
Where were you? Where were you?
it was in Alabama.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is in Alabama. And so the customer like knew what down payment, what payment, like he was and I, this is something where okay, if now you only have email, you're not going to get the phone number, you have to sort of work it like that. So here's where sometimes I think BDCs can use some cross training because a lot of times they don't know how to do that and they have to flip it to a salesperson and then it just sort of like creates this whole disconnect. Right? So with this customer, I'm not going to if they're looking at like a Traverse that was like 20, you know, 24,000, I'm not going to show them a $28,000 car, right? I want to stay in that range because he clicked on that Traverse knowing already that he had 2,500 down, no trade. Like this was his zip code, this was his credit, this was his rate, right? Like this is his term. Like he knew all of that already. So um I ended up switching to I knew that third row was important and it was like whatever the in Q60 I think it is for the
Mhm.
Infinity.
Oh yeah.
Um It was a used one, like rare, because it's at a Chevy store, and that's what he ended up buying. And up until the credit app, which was like probably on his way to the dealership, um, I never got his phone number. Yeah, so
What
like
you did? What? You never
yeah,
got it? Never?
no. He literally, like, by the time he filled out the credit app and he was like on his way, it was kind of a soft appointment, right? He had no trade, but we had a kind of a scheduled rough time, and so then he fills out the credit app, and then he like shows up, and like when he filled out the credit app, you have to put in your phone number. So it's like, okay, but he was at the dealership at that point, and then test drove, like, there was already a product specialist because I'm working it as a point guard, right? As a BDC. And so yeah, it's crazy because I saved the whole archive. And so I look into that. That helps me understand communication from every portal, from email, from text, from phone call. Here's what I love about the phone call though, is it's live. Live is so much leverage from a strategic standpoint, from a probability. It just is. Not only can you read somebody's tone inflection, but that's a huge part on what got me that NADA call, right? Being able to have that instantaneous moment to be able to read somebody through their tone inflection. You don't have that over text. Not only that, but it's live. A text, somebody on the other end can always backspace their words, put their phone down. A live phone call is right now you and me. That's how it is. I love it. I love it.
Oh, how many times? Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
People that have been in the business understand what we're talking about,
I call it I call it the car salesman high, right? And I think it happens when you sell a car, right? When you sell a car and you
Mhm.
close that deal. And if you're BDC or you do internet sales, which has kind of been my cup of tea now, right? For the last 8 years on what my business I on what my niche is, right? On what my business is trained around. And so that high, because you're not face to face with the customer, that high comes into what I believe a BDC person has to have a skill set of knowing how to sell the appointment. So,
Oh my gosh. You
yeah.
know, Elise, I've been in thousands of dealerships, physically stood in thousands of showrooms. I mean, very few people could ever make that claim, but I can make 49 states. And I got to tell you, when you are an outside trainer like we are, and I
Yeah.
go in a dealership and it's my first day, and these people don't know me and they've heard about me. And somebody says, okay, Mr. Big Shot, you go close this customer. And I said,
Yes.
uh-oh. don't fail me now. you know, because if I don't get that particular deal, and and I've had them stand on the balcony. Did you ever go to Tallahassee Dodge?
I no, I did not.
Okay. I did because I consulted them for years. They've got a second level balcony all around the dealerships, like a, oh golly, Embassy Suites. Embassy
Yeah, right,
Suites has
right.
the center. Okay, all around. When I close a deal, all the salespeople go around the railing and they're hanging on the rail to see what, if is he going to do it? Is he not going to do it? And you have the same experience, right?
Oh yeah. That's what you have to keep practicing your free throws. It's 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 just part of it's almost become just you know, I'm still me, but when I'm taking leads, right, for a dealership, my alter ego is Elise Timberlake in that sense because I'm still me, so I have all the same personality traits, the same genuine part about me. I'm still me, but my I'm my what I'm my purpose is the role of a internet, what I train on is as a BDC of how do I take this phone call? How do I take this how do I bring it to the through the right steps to get an appointment? And so much of that, a lot of times as a like you have to know, how do I take this email, and is there a way to majority of the time be able to get a phone number next so they'll text with me? And how do I take that text message to a phone call? And I have it down. This is part of like what I have built with that I put into that pushes into VIN solution so easily. It's kind of like my own AI, my own automation to where I have screenshot conversations now, Jim. It's insane. Like it kind of blows my mind between a real consumer and an agent, right? From when they opt into text to when like they get a phone call, the customer now says, yeah, hey, it's cool to call me. So it's a permissible phone call appointment, right? Like we're and that whole text thread, what the agent wrote was pre-written by me. Like it's like these little
Wait
things.
a second.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? So that's how much of a control in a good way I've learned to obsess and like be such a control freak on understanding how conversation works. But it blows my mind. It's almost like a frame of me to be able to go, okay, this whole conversation, and that's a thing with a genius tool or even just the way that I had these originally structured is it's a million different ways to write something, but you're writing something knowing what the probable response is back, right? But also like it there's just so much that goes into it. I love it. Yeah, but to be able to have like a whole nobody that's like taking a live phone call, but that is
Wait
now
a second. Wait a second.
yeah.
You are just, I taught a college class an hour ago. I teach a general manager class at Northwood University every Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern. So
Yeah.
1 hour ago, and what I was talking about was engrammatic responses. And an engram is when you've done something so many times you don't have to think about it. When
Yeah.
you've and I say if a customer says this, I say that. They
Yeah.
do this, I do that. I am so well trained and so well crafted in my profession that I am engrammatically trained. An engram is synaptical responses that muscle memory. All of a
Yes.
sudden, yes,
Yes.
that's the way you. If a customer says this, the probable response is this. I will say this, and they will say that, and I will do this, and I will close the deal. Is that where
And
you're at?
even if you get here's the thing of understanding it so much deeper that I've always loved about you. I know that even if you got like a new random objection, you understand that it's not just word tracks. There's a reason or move, like there's a reason that you do things. So you would be able to take a fresh objection you've never heard, right? And be able to know how to still take it to where you want because you understand it's not just word tracks. There's reasons for which for everything you do.
Somebody said I still use Elise's voicemail script. I'm going to tell you what. If that script is more than 6 months old, she's already invented something new.
Yeah, I mean, I put it I've been posting a lot of, as a with everything that I do on social media, I've realized that I want to create value, whether it is a dealer looking at my social media or an internet sales rep who has nowhere else to go, right? It's hard to understand, especially if you're like where to get value from. And so I did actually put a voicemail post the other day with my updated voicemail. And people are like, "Oh, you're afraid to give that away." I don't care, right? I want to give value to the industry. That's just who. So the it kind of goes into everything we talked about. The voicemail's transcribed. The chances that a customer actually will take their fingertips and hit the callback button and call you back, even though you're texting them, even though you're emailing them, are very slim to none, right? So, but it also goes into what I'm saying on the voicemail is what did you say? What's the word?
Engrammatic
And
response.
grammat. Okay, so
You will learn that. You will learn that, won't you?
I'm gonna start using it.
An
So
engram, an engram is something imprinted on your brain. Like when you
yeah,
drove your car this morning, you put your foot on the brake, but you never said, "I got to put my foot on the brake." You
right,
went to a stop sign and you just stopped the car.
yeah,
Engrammatic response: wax on, wax off. That
right,
kid didn't realize he thought he was waxing the car. He was learning how to block punches.
yeah, yeah.
Engrammatic response. I'll email you the word.
So it's so the what I ask in a voicemail is something that is an engrammatic response, knowing that it's the same thing that I'm gonna be asking over email and text, and it's something instinctual that the customer doesn't have to think about that matters. If they want a price, then I don't wanna just say, "Hey, come on in," on a voicemail or, "Hey, I got great news," on a voicemail because it's like the customer now thinks they're reading it and they're like, I just wanted a price. So you have to know how to take whoever's asking the questions in charge. That's like psychology 101. So how do I take that, and how does it make sense now, so that I'm creating value for the customer, where what they're saying back to me is going to be something instinctual. So I might say something on that, even though I know they're not going to call me back, but it's what I ask over text or email, something along the lines of, hey, I saw you were doing some pricing research. Pricing research. It was coming up as a 2023 Chevy Tahoe. Can you do me a favor? Give me a call back here at the store, and let me know if that's the correct vehicle so I can line up the figures. Or I'm going to send you a text if it's easier to let me know there. And between the two, are you going to take the extreme and like who would call back a dealership just to let you know, hey, yeah, Jim, that Tahoe's or you're probably going to respond, do the instinctual, which is now responding over text. And there's almost, I've broken it down to where even on the phone call, right, you have what I call blind calls, which is your first point of pickup, right, is on a phone call. And that customer is choosing to pick up a phone call typically from from a line that says your dealership as the caller ID, or maybe it's a cell phone, right? A local, like a Google Voice, or like a dealership cell phone that's not registered, just shows there. So looking that into play. But if they pick up from the dealership caller ID, that says a lot, right? They chose to pick up ABC Motors. If they pick up one of these, that typically is one that you've had to use because you're chasing them, right? And that's just random.
Yes.
But if you take a text message now to where at the end of that text message, it's the customer says, hey, yeah, it's cool, Jim, to call me. Yeah, it's cool now. That phone call is cream of the crop. You've gone through all the objections at that point, like over a text, right? But you're strictly bringing it to a phone call, so you have the max opportunity to still get what you want, which is an appointment. It's a live argument. If you're in an argument, little relationship tip, right? You want to have that little spat in person, so that your spouse can see your body language and understand your tone, but also so you can win your argument, at least from a female perspective, right? So like, so it's yeah, I love it. Everything for me is always about, I think that's that quote, right? When they give you 4 hours to chop a tree, sharpen your blade for 3, or something along those
Oh
lines.
yeah, everybody attributes it to somebody else. Actually, I made that.
Right,
That up.
86% of
It
stats are
wasn't
made
me
up
for
on
him,
the
Nancy.
spot. But that's the truth of it.
Yeah.
Always keeping my blade sharp. And now I'm at a point where it's not just about me, but I'm so excited to to be scaling it in dealerships, right? Somebody said great. I used her latest voicemail. I'm assuming that's the voicemail that I posted recently. And but I love doing that because now and I love seeing like I call it old school stuff that I taught at Battle Plan, like the $2 bill, or like the US, like all these things.
I used to love the $2 bill. Now, when you were,
Oh,
now, if you don't know what she's talking about, when she sold a Honda, she was at a Honda dealership in San Luis Obispo, California. She would put a $2 bill, not
look at what I got at the bank. I
a
picked
$2 bill, and she
yeah.
put it in the gas cap, in the gas door. So when the customer got their first fill up, she had a little note in there. What did the note say?
Here, thank you for your business. Here's for your first fill up. And it was like on the back of your business. But I learned New Jersey, because New Jersey, you can't fill your own gas. So like, it's not so much a thing in being able
No.
to do this in New Jersey. So sorry, New Jersey dealerships. But it was always this thing, because here goes the experience thing. The customer like gets their new car, and like that sort of new car sort of fades off because now they got to fill up for the first time, right? And when they fill up for the first time, they pop open their gas tank, and like wham, you are right there with like, it just is like a pep in your step kind of day, like somebody bought your drive-through at Starbucks kind of
And
day.
it was a $2 bill, which they don't ordinarily have.
No, but people, it's this much effort. This was, you think about, for somebody to email back in, to call back into the dealership, to say, hey, thank you for the $2 bill. This was before texting in CRMs was a thing, right? So now I'm sure like texting with the rep over the CRM and saying, hey, wow, but so back then it was like somebody had to take the time, open up their BlackBerry, right? Email, thank you for the $2 bill. They couldn't send
The
a
other
picture.
thing you used to do that used to just so brilliant, you used to reprogram the screen on their Honda to have a Elise Kephart message rather than the standard Honda
Yes.
message.
Oh my gosh, yes. It's and I think Honda is one of the only ones that really does that. I've played a lot, but it still is you basically just create a wallpaper. And with all these apps now, because right from your phone, right? Pixel Cut, Canva, like there's so many things where you can design without purchasing Photoshop or anything like that. And you can do it for free. It's almost, again, we live in a world where people like being able to take advantage of all the tools, especially when they're free, right?
Mhm.
Is so, but you create a wallpaper essentially. And if I were to do it again, maybe I would I don't know. I people, because a lot of people never took it off, but I would make it probably more branded to the brand. Because now as like a maybe as a consumer, I'd be like, that would be annoying as F for me if I really didn't like the salesperson, right? So if you're gonna put a wallpaper, make sure that you're kind of understanding that a little bit better, like and under okay, what would be something that somebody would want on their wallpaper, right? And it'd probably be like a cool design branded to the actual like
Yeah, Justin Timberlake photo.
right. But you know what's so funny? I gotta say, in all of my templates now, I actually have all these little like decoded things where it's like Justin Timberlake's birthday or like all these funny things that I reference. I mean, he's
You are such a Justin Timberlake super fan.
well, I'm gonna be honest, I saw his latest dance moves, whatever that was. I don't know if you saw that viral video where he was at like a Pharrell concert and it was just like he's getting a little bit of like a dad bod and like his dance moves weren't fresh anymore. And it just I still have like so much
Okay, who's the new one?
yeah, no, but I mean, I'm
She's
still
single, folks. She's single. Okay, I'm
no, kind of going over what for me the last I would say the last 4 years now, my biggest my biggest change has been for me, and this is it, but growth into motherhood. I think raising my girls, right, and understanding the value of that has now like not in a bad way, but kind of streamlined into my back to my core of business, which is you know, just always doing the right thing and giving value. Like as a mom, right? It's so much of my job to make sure that they're raised like the best possible way. And in business, right? For my business, I think there's a quote, I don't know who said the quote, right? But when you're a salesperson, you solve somebody's problem, right? So my business is designed on solving a dealership's really bad problem right now, which is again the frustration of these internet leads, getting contact of them and like setting appointments ethically, right?
Yeah,
And
that's the one thing. You and I and we ethics is important to me. Always has been. You
yeah,
know, you never need to lie, cheat, sneak, deceive, or misrepresent to sell cars, and you can be highly profitable, high volume. You
yeah,
don't need to yeah, and people. And I'll tell you, Elise, I hear this all the time. Well, we're a volume dealership that we can't make big profits. Let me tell you something. CSI, unit profit, and volume, neither one of those things have anything to do with the other. And you can have all three of those: CSI, volume, and profit per unit. You don't have to give up one to have the other.
well, here I wanna tap into this a little bit, the concept of auto of AI, right? Now more than ever, as a salesperson, as a dealership, you have to understand that we are in kind of a crazy time, and you have to ask yourself, "Could a robot do it better than me?" Right? And
Oh,
if what do you mean could a robot do it better? Well, we're talking about how even for me, I've built conversations that a salesperson never writes, right? And what it does is over digital gets a salesperson or a BDC rep on the phone. So if we're talking about all the processes within a dealership from like internet leads moving forward, more than ever as a salesperson, it's not just a skill, but you have to understand the one thing that a robot will never be able to replace is the core relationship, your core, like everything you give to your customer, right? It should be so amazing and so great, right? That they're not going to have the concept of, gosh, I wish I never have to go through this experience again. I wish it was just Amazon and we can just we never have to do that again, right? So more than ever, right? It's like, and especially with a lot of teams, like I said, that never sold cars before the inventory shortage, where things were kind of high and mighty, right? But now
Yes.
more than ever, it's like survival of the fittest in the best, most excited way. Like I always love all the changes. Like I love all the changes that our industry kind of goes through. Um, because it just it proves survival of the fittest, right? Who really
Mhm.
is provides a service, who solves problems, who's the best of the best. Because anybody, like whether you're a salesperson, like anybody can talk the talk, Jim. Like,
Oh,
you know,
there are so many fake trainers out there today. I mean, people, all they got's a bunch of Facebook credentials.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it kills me. They couldn't do it if their whole damn miserable life depended on it.
Yeah. It's I do my best now, right? I like to think of I'm so my the energy that you give, right? If you are like like your phone battery, right? It's lit up green for the day. I want to hold my energy like as green as possible, and any energy that I give, it's not going to be to spend on any like you have as an entrepreneur or as a salesperson, you know, you should have one goal, right? And it's this way, and there's going to be a lot of noise, right? But it's like cancel it out and move forward. Like cancel
Get
it out
away
and move
from the
forward.
energy suckers.
Well, right. And the people that you do give, I was telling this to Miss Bobby Herring yesterday. I was like, okay, the energy that you give matters so much. And so like your close relationships, it still doesn't gotta be with everybody, right? Because that's just gonna your close relationships are like me, like are like this, right? And then your clients, right? Taking care of your clients, taking care of your customers, like that is all like everything else, there's so much noise, right? So I just I've I love that about our industry. You alone, Jim, like you've brought so many close relationships, like, you know, that even offline and everything like that. Um, you learn who fills your cup and vice versa in any type of relationship, right? Whether it's business or whether it's friendship or whether it's in your like relationship with your spouse, that should be a huge part of it, right? That you're filling each other's cup always, you're making each other better.
My
It's
my voicemail or my email always says, try to do something good for somebody today that could do nothing for you and try not to get caught doing it.
yeah,
And try not to get caught. Somebody that can do nothing for you. No expectation of reward. Just go do something good for somebody else and don't try to take credit for it. Just do it.
right,
I've helped so many people that I never tell anybody about.
right,
Just do it.
yeah, right. It is a social media. I mean, it's crazy. I think just the world of social media and how much it's transformed even in the last 10 years. Especially to the point where I mean, and you hear it kind of on like I've on like these dating apps too, the concept of catfishing, right? With so many filters and literally with AI to just make you a completely different image in front of any type of product or like you can put out anything that you want online. It's kind of a crazy thing,
It's
right?
still the Wild West.
But as I mean, again, as a trainer or as a business consultant, like you better be ready because the here's like the thing, right? A car dealership, and I'll just say it like they're closers too. So if you're not real, it's gonna be a problem, right? Like closers of the
Unbelievable.
closer, right? I mean, and that matters so much to when you sort of open your eyes on who's real and who's not, right? Yeah.
I have the inner circle, the
The
inner
inner circle.
circle, the
Yeah.
outer circle. I got different circles of friends and relationships, and most of my friends I have never met in person.
You know who I think is in my inner circle? It goes back to the voicemails that I save, right? for just voicemail purposes, to always have it like on my, though that should be your inner circle. If it's business, like, you know, I use HubSpot as like my business CRM. So I'll like I'll document everything, like put it in the CRM, but then it's like off my phone. Right. So, but the voicemails that I want that are saved in there those are your inner circle. Right. They
I've
should
got
be.
them in my constant contact,
Yeah.
actually filtered by closeness or whatever circle you want to put. I've got them all filtered, every one of
Yeah.
them. Yeah, at
Yeah.
least we have burned through an hour, and I feel like we just got started.
I
Can you
love it.
believe
But can you feel that I don't know if it's just me, like, honestly, but I feel like it has been a very long time, Jim, super long time, where I have been this just excited. This excited, this great, so great to just finally go on Facebook Live. It's been quite a minute, and probably the like
we are on 8 channels right now,
I love it.
and we're in 5 groups on Facebook. We are everywhere. I've got 150,000 friends and followers on social media. Plus my free channel is ZieglerOnDemand.com. Self promotion. Ziegler, Ziegler, ZieglerOnDemand.com, or AlphaDawgOnDemand.com. Either one will get you there. Anyway, Elise, we got to say goodbye.
Bye, thank you so much.